Hello, this is a demonstration of the SpreadSheetWeb software. I have been working with OVSJG on updating their quarterly PMI process for OVSJG grantees. So the demo sites that I'm going to walk you through are for that purpose. But as we go through, keep in mind that SpreadSheetWeb can be utilized in various different ways. It's very flexible. It can do all of the different functions that an Excel document could. What SpreadSheetWeb does is it takes the basic Excel document and it uploads it into the database, and it allows for that document to be distributed to multiple users through a web-based platform. So instead of having each organization have their own Excel document or fill out data in a Google form, users can have individual logins where they can log in, they can submit their data, they can save it, they can edit it. All of that is done using an Excel document. So any function that is usable in Excel can be usable in SpreadSheetWeb as well. And so we're going to walk through the database that I've built for OVSJG's quarterly PMI reports. So I've built out two demo sites. One is a user site for grantees. The other is an administrator site for grant managers. And I'll walk through some of the different functions of SpreadSheetWeb with you. So the first thing to note is that each user can have their own individual login. For users, they can only have, we can set permissions so that they can have only access to their data. If you want them to have access to see other organizations' data but not be able to edit it, that's a functionality. It's really flexible in the way that you set up user profiles as well as permissions. So let's log in. And for the purposes of this, you can have multiple forms through SpreadSheetWeb. So say I have 4 different forms that I need to complete each quarter. Each application can be one of those different forms. So for a user, they're only going to have access to the applications that are applicable to them. So for PMIs, for example, there are many different funding categories, but not all organizations are funded for each of those categories. So any given user would only have access to the applications that are relevant to them. So you'll see each user will have a drop-down menu. The only ones that will populate are ones that are specific to that organization. And so an administrator can set those user permissions so that those are the only things that are visible to each individual user. So what we're going to take a look at one of the applications. And for this purpose, the data is submitted quarterly. So I've gone in and built out 4 separate applications for each user. So the user can log in. They can see all the different forms that they're expected to submit. SpreadSheetWeb has the ability to set time limits on these as well. So if I only want them to be editable for a certain period of time, I can set dates so that outside of that time block, they're not updatable or editable. I can make it so that they're always available, whatever fits the needs that you have. These forms are live, they're able to be updated and edited, and all of those revisions can actually be seen through the portal. So we'll look through those functions in just a little bit. So what I'm first going to do is walk you through all of the different columns. These are able to be tailored to your specific needs. What is the most important information for your users at first glance when they're looking at their data? So for this purpose, the grant number, the fiscal year, the quarter, the grant manager, those are the most important pieces of data for the users when they're logging in. But all of that can be edited and updated according to your needs. So let's take a look at what one of the forms looks like. So what I did is I created this in Excel, I modified it, and then I uploaded it and edited it in the software. So you'll see there's a lot of similarity to Excel. First, here at the top, you see the 3 tabs. If you have a multi-page document that you want to upload, that is possible in SpreadSheetWeb. Users can navigate using the tabs at the top, or they can navigate using the buttons at the bottom. There's Next, Back, Submit, all of the different buttons that we'll be utilizing. So for the purposes of this, I've color-coded all of the blocks so that users know which blocks they're expected to fill out. So you'll see the orange blocks are the ones that users can fill out or edit or update. This block here is empty, so it says email address of the person completing the PMI submission. You can set it up so that whatever email address is submitted in this block, once I've submitted my document, there'll be an automatic email that's populated and sent to that email address indicating that the submission has been complete. You can also send a carbon copy to an administrator. So say I want Jaime to also have access to an email as well, have that auto-populate. I can set it up so that both email addresses are auto-populated, or that an email is sent automatically once the form has been submitted to those two different email addresses. You'll see some of these yellow blocks here. These are self-generating numbers. So there are some functions where there might be automatic calculations that are helpful for users as they're moving throughout your application. This example, so this is asking for the total number of primary victims, which would be the sum of the new and the continuing primary victims. So instead of having users manually have to add that together and then submit that here, it automatically calculates that for them. You'll also see some of these color-coded blocks down here. This is helpful for either guiding or preventing users and checking their data prior to submission. So for the purposes of this form, for each new primary victim that I state that I served, I have to report a gender for each of them. So for example, if I report that I served 10 new primary victims, I need to report 10 genders down here. And if I don't, what's going to happen, as you see, is that block is going to change. I've set them up for green for good, red for bad. The colors, you can choose which ones you think are best for those visual indicators. And if I have not filled out 10 genders, if the numbers are not adding up correctly, then it's going to give a visual indicator that this is incorrect. So what I'm going to do is change the data. And once I do, you see, once the system has recognized that I have indeed completed the data correctly, it's going to change to green. Other functions that you can do, I can make it so that the ability for the user to click on the next button is contingent on all of these blocks being green. That way users cannot submit data that is not correct or sound in terms of the calculations. So all of those are functions that can be built out through the software. So users can also export data both as an Excel document or as a PDF. So if you come to the last page of the form, first I'm going to show you once you submit the form, so when I've hit that submit button, a little auto-populated block is going to come up saying your PMI report has been submitted. If I have set the spreadsheet up to email the grant manager, and the email will automatically go out. If I have submitted my email address in that first block we mentioned earlier, I will get an email to my email address letting me know that the PMI report has been submitted. I can also export my document into a PDF. So from this page it will export into a PDF. I'll show you how to export it into an Excel document in just a few moments. So once I open that up, so once it's downloaded, you can see the PDF auto-populates all of the data that I've submitted. So you see the 10 that I submitted here, you can see the color coding, and users can download this and save this as a PDF. They can also go back to their dashboard and they can download it as an Excel document. So there's a few different ways you can do that. If I just want the one application's worth of data, I can download that individual application into an Excel document. If I want to download all of them, so say it's the end of the fiscal year, I want all of my data in one spreadsheet, I can download all of them. Or if I only want a couple of the spreadsheets, I can go through and highlight them in blue and then download selected. And it will just download the data in those two applications. So a couple other things you can see. So I mentioned earlier that you can see the history of any given document. So if I want to know when the data was updated, what was changed, I can log into the history of a document. Let's see when it's been updated. So here you can see the changes that I made to the document, and I can see who made the change, what time the change was made. I can also see the changes that were made. And if for some reason a previous version of the application or the record is correct, maybe someone logged in and accidentally deleted some of the data, I can make previous records active. That way you never lose the data that was previously submitted. It's all captured in SpreadSheetWeb, so you can always go back and either look at the data that was previously in there, or you can make previous records active so that the data is then brought to the forefront. So let's take a look at a grant manager. So this is an administrator profile. You'll see immediately the dashboard's a bit different. This is because the administrators have different access to all of the data and to make changes to each application. So one thing that can happen in a long-term data collection project is maybe you need to add a question or change a question, change the responses or the the format of the survey. All of that can be done here. So what I can do as an administrator, I can download the current Excel document that was used to create the application. I can make the edits that I need to. I could re-upload it into the software. And what will happen is that all of the users who have access to that application, their forms will automatically be updated to reflect the changes that I made. So instead of having to send out emails and remind folks to make changes to their own individual applications, it will automatically prompt them and it will automatically have those new questions or those changed questions updated in their user's application folder. So there is a lot less administrative hassle when changes have to be made. I can also see all of the data for all of the users that have submitted in one place. So I haven't made that many users, but in theory, if I had multiple users, I could see all of the data that they had submitted here on this page. So there could be a list of various grant managers, different grant numbers, and as an administrator, I can go in and I can sort the data that has been submitted using these different filters. So I can sort alphabetically by grant manager if I want to only see the organizations that I work with, and then I could go in and just highlight the organizations that I work with and download those. I could sort by grant number, by quarter, by fiscal year, and again, you can utilize the software to download any of the data that you want together. So I could download all of the quarter 1 data together, all of the quarter 2 data together, whatever is most useful for me. I can also set up the columns. So as an administrator, I control what these columns say, and this will also populate for each of the users. So the columns will be the same for all of the users accessing the same applications. Administrators can also control the user profiles. So I can go in and I can add users, I can change users, I can give them different permissions, I can give them new access to certain forms, I can take away access from certain forms. All of that is done through the administrator profile. So this has just been a quick demo. I am also, in addition to the video, going to send you the login information and a document that walks you through some of the usability for the site so you can play around with it. I know some folks learn better through trying something as opposed to watching a video. So if you have any questions about the applicability or the different functions specific to your program, please feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to talk you through. Thanks so much.